I'm going to continue on that project. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to show you something real quick. I'm not going to take a lot of time with it. So there it is. If you remember, this was months and months ago. We had the hurricane come through here, and a tree fell, and I had chopped it up into some firewood. Um, I I didn't want to just let that firewood sit on the floor, because obviously if you just let it sit on the raw ground, it wicks up that moisture and then eventually it rots. And so instead of having that wood just sit on the floor, get wet and rot, and then when you go to burn it in the fire pit, it just smokes and it's hard to start and it smolders instead of, putting off a nice flame, I decided to pick up one of these guys. I bought a cover for it, and I bought a little firewood stand. I didn't split the wood. I probably should. I'm not that educated in like campfires. I know splitting wood is probably better because I assume it's to help it dry faster. But we're not exactly seasoned veterans here at the Honeydew Homestead in terms of campfires. We usually just kind of light one from time to time recreationally. Anyways, let me get started on the actual plan for today. Well, that didn't work out how I had planned. Looks like the wind blew it over, and because of how I kind of mounted this to try to level things out, it kind of created a little bit of a pool here. That was not my intention. I'm gonna have to rework some of this, but I think I have just the tools to do it. So if you haven't figured it out by now, I'm trying to build a level bed here, and the reason for that is I'm trying to get a level foundation that I can build a frame onto so that I can build a chicken coop. It's not going to be super big because, again, I still live close to town and I have to abide by certain rules. One of those rules is I have to have it on the rear of my property, which, because of the orientation of my property, even though this is technically the rear of the property, you can still see it from the road, and it's not in the fenced-in part of my backyard. It's very weird. I live on kind of a curb, so that's the reason why this property is a little complicated. Anyways, this should be an okay place. Worst case scenario, I'm gonna try to do my best to build this thing in a modular fashion so that if they come after me again, then I can do something to move it. I can disassemble it and then transfer it to another location. But by everything I have read, this is a good place to put it. Now, some of the rules that I have to follow. It has to be in the rear of the property. No roosters. I'm not worried about that. So I am going to have just hens, and I'm going to have just egg hens. Now, one of the last things that I have to abide by is that the chickens have to be in a run. I cannot have free-range chickens, which I'm okay with. If you can't hear it, this property being so close to town is also pretty close to a main vein road, which means that there's a lot of traffic that's just constantly flowing here. So these chickens will not be free-ranging. They will be in a run, and so here's my basic thought. I'm gonna build roughly about a 4 by 11 coop. Now, why 11? Because lumber comes in sizes of 4, sometimes 6, 8, 12. And what I want to have is a little bit of an overhang on either side of the coop in terms of the roof pitch. And in order to do that, I can't build it at 12 because I won't have any room for overhang if I'm using just straight dimensional lumber. So I figure 12-foot roof, 11-foot space underneath it. That's kind of where my thought is. In terms of height, the wall height is going to be 6 feet because I could get, say, 2 by 12s, cut them in half, and that'll give me 6-foot high walls, which is enough. I should be okay, especially the coop itself is going to be in the run, is going to be slightly elevated. I'm going to put it up on some blocks because, again, we are on this slope. And I do plan on putting predator fencing and stuff down on the bottom, and using like some good hardware cloth and so on. But that's the basic plan. So anyways, I'm gonna keep working, and I'll most likely break this up into a series because it's gonna take me several days to do it, and then maybe at the very end I'll throw a compilation video together just for the people who are maybe a little more impatient. All right, let's get started. Oh, that's slippery. Yeah. Whoa. Come on, man. It's cold, it is wet. That's not a good combination to be working in clay. We're gonna do our best because I think it's gonna be colder and rainier for the next few days. So by the time you see the next video, that's probably gonna be like a week later. I only bought 6 of these blocks. I don't know why. I should have bought 8. But we're gonna make it work. With 6 blocks on an 11-foot span, that's just under 6 feet on center, which seems kind of like a wide span. If I'd gotten 2 more blocks, then we could have shrank that down to like 4 feet, which is probably where it should be. Oh, have I mentioned how much I love working in the mud? Pretty sure I've mentioned that in at least 1 or 2 videos. Once we get rocking and rolling here and I have my foundation put down, I'll sprinkle some wood chips in here just to take the tackiness away. This whole bed's gonna get filled up with wood chips anyway, so if I kind of get it started after the foundation, it's just helping me out. It took me a little longer to get these guys level and square than I thought it would, but I really wanted to take my time with this because I did not want to be building the rest of this structure on just uneven ground. The last thing I want to do is just sit there and fight level constantly. I want the foundation to be solid, and then I can move on from there and not worry when I put a level onto something that it's going to be off. And why is it off? Is it because the foundation was crooked or whatever? But these blocks are square and level, and so I can put my skids on top of those. The one problem I'm gonna have is I went out to the lumber yard. I could not find pressure treated 4x4 by 12 because I could have just, cut 12 inches off of that and I would have had my 11-foot skids. The problem now is I have to get 4x4 by 8s, and I'm gonna try to, what's the word I'm looking for? Anyways, I'm going to splice those together. I'm going to finger joint them or half lap them over, and we'll put some screws in it, and then we're going to use that as our 11-foot lengths. Hopefully it works out. Oh, on that note, I did change something because I'm going to have to do that splicing, and I didn't want that half lap to be suspended. Instead of splitting the difference here and having an even, roughly 6 feet over here, I went ahead and moved this over, so this is about 4 feet apart here, and then this is the remainder of the length over on the far end. Now, the main reason why I did that was because, yes, like I mentioned, the half lap, I didn't want that to be cantilevered and taking on a lot of load. So the half lap is going to be sitting on that footer, that block there. And the other reason is most of the weight is going to be on this 4-foot side because this is where the coop is going to be. The longer side is going to be mostly run. The only weight it's really going to be holding is itself plus a roof. And the plan is to use something relatively lightweight, maybe like a tin roof on there. So what I really want is the most support to be on the side that's going to have the most weight. All right, let's dry fit this thing. Okay, so my measurement wasn't perfect. In thickness wise, I think we're good. But you see there's a gap right here. So you can do one of two things. You can cut off a little bit of this guy, or on this guy you can cut a little bit deeper here, and then that'll tighten up that gap. I'm gonna cut this guy a little bit deeper only because of where my footings are, but it totally depends on how you choose to do it and where your footings end up landing. So I'm gonna go ahead, finish that up. I'm gonna do the same thing for one more post to put on the other side, and then we'll go drop them at the chicken coop. All right, see you in a little bit. Now, the other thing I need to do is I need to create a support that goes across here and across on the far side over there. So what I'm gonna do while I'm at it is go ahead and cut another half lap here. Let's see if I can get out of that. Get the shadow out of your way. I'm gonna cut another half lap here so that I can lay another board on top there and run it all the way across. So my hope is that all of this is going to be tightly locked together. It's all going to be supported underneath by those blocks, and then I can start building up from there. I've got these boards down here mostly just so I can cut and my blade's not going to hit the dirt, but those boards are going to come out when I'm done. Okay, we're going to want 3.5 inches because that is the width of the 4x4, the nominal 4x4. And we want those to overlap as close to perfect as possible. I mean, we're building a chicken coop here. Let's not get too crazy. All right, we're gonna go ahead and do that 3 more times, and I'll see you in a little bit. All right, so I think I'm gonna leave it here. I'm just gonna drive a couple of screws and finish this job up, and then we'll leave the rest for another day. After this, we'll have a nice foundation to start building from, and we can go ahead and start building the modular panels that we're gonna assemble to make our chicken coop and chicken run. All right, with that, as always, you guys be good. I'll see you on the next one.